So, lesson 3.3. In this lesson, we are going to focus on responsibility and offer opportunities for students to further articulate their beliefs and values. So, after a short opener, they're going to have the opportunity to focus individually and complete an activity about the rings of responsibility just for 15 minutes or so to kind of get their ideas on paper and then come together as a group. And that's the bulk of the conversation, to come together as a group and talk about the rings of responsibility and what that means. And then there's a homework assignment. So, to focus more specifically on a few more elements here, I think it makes sense in the beginning to take some time and really model for your students this activity about thinking through responsibilities. So, for example, I would start off by saying, okay, if I had to think about my responsibilities and to whom or what I feel responsible, this is what I would say. So, here's the activity. To whom or what do you feel responsible? And I would say, well, in my work, and in my life, I feel responsible to the people I work with, so my coworkers. I feel responsible to the work itself, so I feel a responsibility to do my best work. I feel a responsibility to get that work out there in the best form that it can. I feel responsible to my friends and my family, to be there for them, to give them what they need in terms of support. I feel responsible to the environment. I feel a responsibility to be a good citizen and to vote, for example. And I also feel responsible to, recycle and to care about my carbon footprint, for example. These are just some of the things that I would list. I would put them all as a list and I would say, this sticky is important here. It doesn't have to be immediately prioritized in terms of rings. Just get out all of those different ideas and both individuals, but then also think about things too. So who are the people you feel responsible to? And then also, what are the ideas or ideals that you feel responsible to? So if you're willing and able to model that for your students, I think they might have a better understanding of then what is expected of them. So after you model this activity, you can give the students the opportunity to sit individually and think about this rings of responsibility worksheet and really just give them, they may or may not need 15 minutes. They might just need a few minutes to kind of put this out. And then if there is some extra time, you can offer to have them in pairs where they can turn to a partner and discuss some of their responsibilities. And then it's good to have a moment and come together as a class and discuss this worksheet. You can show them the video, so the Rings of Responsibility video, have it ready. It's right here, so you can play it for them. Again, in the Resource Center, in the videos, just scroll through till you get to this one. Okay, and then you can assign the homework for your students. So there's a reflection homework where it really gives them the opportunity to think in many different ways about responsibilities and how they play out in real life. So this activity asks them to think about a time when they had to make a big decision about something and when you faced a dilemma about potentially being torn and being conflicted about a choice. And then the reflection goes on to offer the opportunity to think potentially about responsibilities and weighing different responsibilities. Perhaps, you're torn between responsibility to self and responsibility to a friend, or responsibility to parents or peers, and then to the wider world, or something like that. Gives them multiple opportunities to think about ways to break down these activities, potentially what rings of responsibility were you not taking into consideration. That's okay. You don't always have to weigh every single responsibility, and important to let them know that as well. And then just a couple of other points that I wanted to highlight. Like values and like doing the value sort, responsibilities are not fixed. They can evolve over time. So just as on one day you might be feeling more with the value sort, there might be some values that rise to the top on one day and they might be different on a different day. The same thing can happen with responsibilities. So you don't necessarily feel all of those responsibilities on a particular day. And then also, as we grow older, we feel different responsibilities. So you could ask your students to think about potentially when you were 10 years younger, if somebody asked you this question, what would you have said? And although they might not have, they might laugh at the idea of, what did I think as a 5 year old? 5 year olds do have a worldview, and I think it puts them into a frame of how they've grown. And then you might also expand the conversation a bit by asking students to think about others' responsibilities. So, how might your parents respond to these questions? How might your peers respond to these questions? How might a public figure think about these responsibilities? Or historical figure, for example. So asking them to think a little bit beyond themselves and put them in the frame of others' minds, always a useful activity. So in short, that is 3.3. It's a little too far out there. Hope this was useful. Just some ways to think about responsibilities, and we will be doing more of that in lesson 3.4.